Okay, we have talked about the need. Actually, maybe I didn't talk about need as much as I would like to. The need for the toolboxes was that I knew that you'd put all your stuff in it. But one thing I think I forgot to tell you is when I went to Mrs. Luwaji and I was telling her that I'd really like to build this box and I was going to start running short on funds. She said, that's important enough where I think that the school, St. Francis, would pay for that. And so you need to give Mrs. Luwaji a great big old hug because I didn't know how I was going to get this done without her help. And so she saw that need, and when I went to her with numbers and stuff, she said that we could swing it. So make sure and say thank you to Mrs. Luwaji, not just for the toolbox. Obviously, she's a great principal, but that was one additional thing that she did for you because she thought you would be able to use it for years to come and be a nice thing to take with you when you're done here. So, so that's the need part. We did the design. So now we got the cost analysis. Cost analysis. So what I usually do, I write right on the top of the page. So this is, you can, because you've got a big old page of paper there, you can probably go underneath the cut list, which is right here. And we went through that previously. So I'm just going to finish this line so it's a little clearer. Okay. So then cost analysis. So what that involves is now we think about how many pieces of this wood can I get out of a length of material. And knowing again that we're going to be doing 42 of them this time because we're doing them for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It plays a different part, a different role than on the length of stock that you buy because you know that whatever you don't use, the drops will be able to be used for something else. And it's always nice to do quantities so that you can just keep kind of building them too, and it's kind of fun. So anyway, here we go with cost analysis. So we have standard lengths of boards. There's 6. Usually start around 6 foot. You can get all sorts of different sizes at Menards anymore if you're just doing little tiny jobs. But standard sizes for dimension lumber are going to be 6, 8. Actually, a comma would be better. 10 foot. And we're only going to go up to 12 foot because that's about the largest stock we can use in here for lumber. And this is for lumber. And you should have looked up your numbers quite some time ago on all that stuff. Sheet stock. Sheet stock is commonly like plywood, particle board, and we've been through what plywood is. It's the plies that they go counter to each other, and that keeps the stock from getting bigger or smaller as much. It kind of works against each other, and because the glue between the two are holding it all together very tightly, you can't move as much, and it makes it much more stable. So usually when you're using sheet stock, you want something a little bit more stable, especially over larger areas. That's why they use it on roofs and stuff. Use lumber. You gotta be careful how you run it and how you nail it so that it'll actually work together. Otherwise, it can get you into trouble. I can go into I will for just 2 seconds here. It was called shiplap. And shiplap, when you had a roof like this, and we'll just put a number in like 10 feet, they would have pieces of wood that were like this, and I'm going to draw it a little bit larger. So the bottom piece is like that, and then the next piece up would be, let's see here, would be like this. So what you did, actually it was the other way around. So what happened here, these are just pieces of wood, lumber. So this is back in the 50s, 60s, and before that, they used to use something called shiplap. They'd be anywhere from 4 inches wide, maybe up to 10 or 12 inches wide. But they had this lip here, and then what you do is in your rafter, rafter is like this, and you have come across, and you got this coming down, and then you have different supports underneath here, like come down like this. So something like that. So that's your rafter, and the shiplap. What you did is you nailed it you only nailed it here because you had to right on the end. Normally you just nail it on one side, right here. Okay, and what that nail did was it held the top piece down to the bottom piece, and this was allowed to float. Now if you have a 12-inch piece of stock, it can expand and contract 1/16 of an inch for every 6 inches. So on a 1-foot piece of stock, it could actually expand and contract a foot, or an eighth of an inch. So what they did was between the shiplap, and I have it drawn tight here, but I'm just going to draw it a little bit bigger here. They would leave a gap between the wood of an 1/8 inch. And so when you put the nail down through this piece right here, it held this piece down and allowed it to float. This is technically a rabbet. Okay. Carpenters are really wise when it comes to how materials move and can expand and contract. Some smart guy figured out that using a rabbet or a dado was the best way because that would allow the wood to move back and forth. And it won't break the wood. So I just thought I'd give you a brief explanation of that. Not that it really have a whole lot to do with what we're doing right here, but it's just kind of something on the design end that, you know, that's something I really enjoy. But anyway, sheet stock, 4x8, so stability. It's known for stability. Stability. It's actually a very important term. How stable is your material? How is it going to move? You got to be able to predict it and then adjust to how it works, because you're not going to change the characteristics of the material, but what you can change is how you use it. It's incredibly important to be able to use the material the way it wants to be used. So anyway, sheet stocks comes in several different thicknesses. You can get 1/8, quarter, half, 3/4, 1 inch. We'll never use 1 inch in here. The finger must be a little wet. But the one thing that doesn't change is the size of the stock. It's always going to be 4 feet by 8 feet. Okay. Most of you guys will remember all this and you have it written down, and you probably have all your numbers written down because that was part of your homework that I was grading on. So the other part of this, the 6, 8, 12, is it can come in different 1x material. So it could be like a 1x4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all right? Or it could come in 2x4, 6, 8, 10, or 12. It can come down in these different sizes. So it's 1x, 2x. They have 3x stuff, 4x stuff. We'll never see it in here. In fact, we're not going to use the majority of these other pieces either. You know, we use 2x4s on the benches, and we, you know, this all the stool stock I actually had milled from a tree off my property last fall. And we're able to use it this spring already. But anyway, so that's all stock that we just I machined to size in very specific sizes in my shop, based on not necessarily any of these numbers. This is all common grade lumber and sheet stock. So anyway, the other things we're dealing with this time are dowel rod. To make dowel rods, all sorts of different sizes and lengths. So common sizes and lengths are, you know, you can get 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch. These are all diameters. 1/2 inch, 3/4. So see how it goes, 1/8, 1/4. And so as you get bigger, they typically go by 1/4 inches, but then after a certain length, or a certain size, they start jumping even 1/2 inch or 1 inch. And those are just common sizes. They can't afford to keep all these different sizes of stock, you know, the ones in between the spots. They can't afford to keep those, and so you have to either figure out a way to make them, or just make sure that you design to use a common size, because it's going to cost you a lot more money if you don't using common size. And again, we're trying to keep the cost as low as we can while getting the best quality that we can. So let's see here. So we have different size stocks, dowel rod. So again, they could come in 2, 3, 4. I think they jumped to, I don't think they have a 5. I think they just jumped to 6. All right. And then we're going to be using, what is it called? Piano hinge. Piano hinge. Okay, piano hinges. Again, you can get long lengths. Usually you just cut them with the tin snips to your particular length. You can usually cut them to the inch. I'll show you as an example on the ones we're using right now. They're on 2-inch increments for screws. Typically, you don't want to cut in between or in the spots where the screws are. You can if you need to, and if it doesn't need to be pretty. But I prefer to cut on the 1-inch marks in between the hinges. So, you know, if I couldn't have gotten, if I needed to go on something like the outside, so say I needed 17 inches, I would have had it cut, and if I had to, I would. But if you can cut, leaving a little bit of space on each side, piano hinges are very strong. I would probably try to, if I need a continuous hinge, I'd probably try to hit on the 2nd inch. So like a 2 or a 4 or a 6, so that I could hit not on those screw holes. But, and that's what we're able to accomplish by doing this. So piano hinges. They come in different widths. I think you get them up to like 3 inches, so it probably start at like a 1 inch, and then they go to 1.5 inches, and then probably up to 3 inches. Oh, no, they have other sizes here. I keep wanting to use my fingers. So 1, 1.5. I think they got like a 2-inch one. And I'm not real familiar with much over that because I've never used them. But I know they have really large ones. They use them sometimes on great big institutional doors like hospitals and stuff where they got really large doors. Instead of using a great big plate hinge, they just use a piano hinge that runs top to bottom on the door. They're super heavy duty. They come in all sorts. Obviously, you can cut it to any length you want, but I think they start out as 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, and then I think you just jump to the roll, and you can go up to 100 foot, which is crazy long. You know, they come in a great big coil about 2-3 feet in diameter, and you just coil them out and coil them up and coil them up, and you get 100 feet. And the coil is so big that you can straighten them out real easy. They're in a radius then. Well, the radius is so large that they're easy to unroll and just use. So, all right. So a cost analysis on our material. Let's look at the flat stock. This is all 1x material. We know that. So we're going to be at a 1x8. So we're using a 1x8. Now, the cost of materials also depends on the quality of the material. You can get a very low grade at Menards. They had, I forget, there was like 3 colors and 3 different grades. They had their very low grade, they had a medium grade, and they had a super high grade. Grade is determined by several things. We'll only talk about 1 or 2 of them. It's checking. So like you can have a board that has grains, and then you'll have a check in the board. Okay. So the boards might have checks on the ends. They could be in the center of the board. They can be surrounded by a knot. A lot of times by knots, they'll crack, and the amount of knots. And they can have so many defects on a lineal piece of wood on one side. So, like if you get a clear wood, it's clear on one side. It's not clear necessarily on both sides. Unless you buy the super expensive stuff, which is clear all the way through, and then that board might be up to 2 to 3 times more expensive than even a moderate grade. So, if a board is like $4 for a board or something, it could be $20 for a perfectly clear board or more. In my world of cabinetry, I'm dealing with grades all the time, and there are some people that want a naughty grade for cabinets or whatever. And they have natural color, so it can be color in my world as well. So they'll grade it for color. Like if you have walnut, they'll have sapwood around the outside, which is a super light brown, whereas in the middle it could be super black almost, or super brown. So it's a different world in the cabinet world than what we're dealing with here, just in construction grade materials essentially. Like I said, the stools, I actually graded that myself. I've been doing it so long, I kind of enjoy it. But anyway, it's all cost related when it comes to grading. And so what I had you do is I had you price out a moderate grade of wood. And I'm just going to go back to one of our sheets that we did together, and then we're going to use those to determine the cost of the different materials. And then we'll discuss the lengths and how I got that out of a board. Here we go. We're going to do two different ways to scale or to figure out how many pieces we can get out of a piece of wood. We're going to use the math way first, and then we're going to come back and do the scaling method second. By scaling it essentially removes a lot of the need for using math. But if you don't have a board, you can't scale. So it's kind of going backwards. But if you know you're going to buy material anyway, sometimes it's just easier to do it that way. And sometimes it's an extra trip if you need to scale. But if you need to build something, it's two ways to do the same thing. Or you can use a piece of string. There's a lot of ways to scale things out. It's just a little harder sometimes. You just like tape a piece of string to the floor that's marked at 8 foot and 10 foot or 12 foot or something, and then you scale it out using a piece of string, just a piece of tape. Very cheap way to do it. So there's a lot of ways to do this kind of thing, but math is probably the least expensive way to figure things out if you can do it that way. But all right, I am going to use a calculator because we do get into the numbers a little bit. So okay, so I would start out with a 16 3/8 piece. I know that's going to, remember we have, these are the evenly divisible numbers up here, 16, 19.2, 24, and 48. All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to try 16 3/8 a little bit over, so I know it's not going to fit into an 8-foot piece real cleanly. And we're going to have a little, and even at 10 foot, we're going to have a lot of waste at that point. So then we start looking, well, is the drop on 8-foot piece or the 16 or a 10-foot piece or a 12-foot piece, what do the drops look like? And how can we do that? And remember when we did the benches, it's like we had 2 of this and 2 of that, I think out of a 12-footer or something like that. We had 2 B's and 2 C's out of a 12-footer. 10-footer, I can't remember anywhere, and it's been a while. Anyway, and so that's the way it works out. And the time to think about that stuff is now when you're doing the cost analysis. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to figure that out so we have the most efficient way to approach this whole problem. So anyway, let's start out just drawing something on the board so you can kind of picture it in your head. I do this all the time. You just make yourself a quick sketch. This is our board, and we're going to have marked at 8 foot, 10 foot, and this is 12 foot. So this is 12 foot, 10 foot, and 8 foot. Probably not going to deal too much with a 6-foot board. So you do that, and then let's just figure out, okay, if we have 19 1/16 goes right into 8-foot board. That'll work every single time. We need 2 of them per, so that's really the easiest one to deal with at this point. So we know that an 8-foot board, we're going to be able to get 5 out of that, 5 bottoms. We need 42, so we know that after that we just got to order out the right amount of material for that. But we're just figuring out per box right now. So, but we are going to go with quantity sizes. So anyway, and then we'll come back and figure out per box based on that number. So let's see here. So we got 19 and 16, 16 and 3/8. We're coming back to that hard number. How are we going to deal with that number? So let's just figure it out. So we're going to take 96, I know we're gonna run off. Let's go with a 10-footer. So 120 inches, and we're gonna divide 120 inches by 16 3/8 and just see how many pieces we can get out of it. So 120 divided by 16.375. Got a little kerf, let's just make it, a kerf is the cut, remember? So we're actually gonna add an eighth to that, because we know that that's gonna have to occur when we cut the board. So we're gonna go to 16 3/8, so we're just gonna add that eighth and say 16.5. So 120 divided by 16.5. We have 7, we can get 7 boards out of that using a 120-inch board, so 7 boards. So that's the whole number. Then it says 0.27 repeating. So the 0.27 is of the 16.5. Let's just figure out what the drop would be. So 0.27 times, I'm drawing in a diagonal here, and see if I can straighten that out so you don't have to have a crooked eye. So 0.27 times the 16.5. And then we can figure out the drop. 0.27 repeating, which is fine, times 16.5. So the drop on a 10-foot board is 4.4 inches. 4-inch drop. That's really good. You know, if you can get less than a 6-inch drop, that's, you know, it's, so let's just talk about drops here and what's acceptable. So our board is 7.25 inches. 7.25. There we go. So if the board is 7.25, an acceptable drop is a drop that is less than the width of the board. It's a very acceptable drop. So if you have a 2x4 and you're cutting along and you have a 1-foot drop, 1-foot drop is probably worth keeping. But if you had a drop that was only like 3 inches long, you need to throw that one away because you can't cut it. There's a lot of reasons for that. So an acceptable drop actually should be on a quiz. Acceptable drop is is less than the width of the board. Okay. Probably will have to have a quiz because I'm dropping a lot of terms on you, and this is a good one right here. So, but getting back to the subject at hand, so I think we could easily use that 120 inch, and it's coming out remarkably good. So I think we'll just use 120 inch boards for all our A's, and we'll use an 8-foot board for all our B's, and then this is really close to 19.2 again. Our drop is going to be very minimal. So we're going to make this real quick and easy, I guess, because I designed these two to be that would fit into an 8-foot board very quickly and easily. So again, we'll probably use an 8-foot board for all these letter C's because this one and this one are very close together. I think we've determined that we're going to use, so how many we get out of here? We can get 7 A's out of, so let's figure this out. So we're going to be building 42 boxes. Let's just put that underneath as a caret mark. We're doing a little bit of an equation here. Some people call it an algorithm. 42, and we're going to call them boxes. It's actually a toolbox, all right? We've got 42 toolboxes. For letter A, we can get 7 very efficiently out of a 120 inch board. or 10 footer. 120 inches is equal to 10 feet. Okay? So, how many lineal feet do we need then? Or how many do we need? So we got 42 divided by 7, because we got 7 pieces. 42 divided by 7. Actually, we need 2 pieces per box. All right, so for letter A, we need 2 pieces. So 2 times 42 is 84. 2 times 2 is equal to 84. So we need 84 pieces. And 84 divided by 7. 84 divided by 7. We don't need parentheses on that. 84 divided by 7. So we get 7 pieces per board. Come on, phone. Most of you probably already got the number. So we'll need quantity of 12. And we're doing this for the whole lot quantity, not just your box. We're going to come back to that, okay? We're going to figure out how many we need for 42 boxes and drop back the cost to how much each box is costing us. So 84 divided by 7, so we'll need 12 boards. For letter A, right here, 1 by 8, 10 feet long. That's the way I like you to write it, okay? Now for letter B, we got, again, 42 boxes. So 42 times 2 equal to 84. And we can get over here, we can see that for letter B we're working on 19 1/16. All right, that's right. So we got 84 pieces. We can get 6 pieces out of an 8-foot board, right? Oh, 16. So we can get 5 pieces out of an 8-foot board because we're going to 19. So 84 divided by 5. 84 divided by 5. So we'll need 16.8, but you can't buy a portion of a piece, you can buy the whole piece. So we're going to get 17 boards, 1 by 8 foot. Okay? And for letter C, again, we're going to use, you know that this is very close to this. We can get 5 more pieces. We only need 1 piece though. So for letter C, we're going to have just 42 boxes, 1 piece each. So you just can write it in there. We know that that number is going to be 42. And then how many boards do we need? It should be roughly half of that, which half of a fraction of board. And so here at 17 is going to be 8.5, like that by 9. So let's just verify that. 42 divided by 5 is 8.4. So about 8.5 boards. So you got by 9 boards. 1 by 8. Oops. Here we go again. It's only eraser thing. I'm not used to writing on a board. So it's 1 by 8, 8-footer. Okay? And that is all of our like stock. So then we just add together the like boards. So this one stays the same because we only have one set of 10-foot boards. But here we have 2 sets of 8-foot boards. So 9 plus 17 is 26, right? So we got 26. 1 by 8, 8-foot boards. Okay? So because we added these 2 together. All right. So now that we got all that information, now we still have to figure out how dowels come. I think the dowel rods are over here. Where's the dowel rods? Can I not write dowel rods down here? I don't see them. Maybe I erased it. Oh, here it is right here, dowels. All right, so like that. I'll keep it separated. So dowels. So the diameters, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1 inch. Right, I had you guys do a 1 by 4 footer, a 1 inch diameter by 4 feet long. So we'll have to add that in. We'll need 2 of them per box, so then we have to know that using a 4-foot dowel, we'll need 1/2 of a dowel. So because the dowel rod is 20 inches, use a 48-inch dowel rod.
Dustin, please come to the chapel. Thank you.
So 48-inch dowel, we need a 20, we're gonna have an 8-inch drop. That's just the unfortunate reality of this situation, because making 1-inch dowel rod, I actually did the calculation, and it cost me substantially more than actually just buying them. So especially when they're on sale. So I got a 1-inch dowel, and I had guys price it out at Menards and different places. So we have the cost of D, and so it's going to be 1/2 of a rod. If we have 42 of them, we'll actually need 21 rods. So we'll need 21. Rods, 1 inch diameter, 1 inch diameter. Okay, we should be writing on the end, 3/4 lumber. LO is the abbreviation for lumber. I always use a ditto sign. Okay, that's a ditto. This is a ditto. All right, 1-inch dowels are just what they are. Piano hinges are what they are. Now we're at the bottom, and so now we can write down here 1/4 plywood. Okay? Everybody cool on that? Again, I'm running out of space on my board for everything I need to put in here yet, but just the way it is at this point, I'll probably erase all this. But I know this is all kind of reminds me of my old calculus teacher. He would expand across board after board. He'd slide a board over and board. Well, I was still writing the notes on the first board, and he's on his 3rd board of calculation. Ah! So anyway, kind of mind blowing. But anyway, that's how you do the calculations. Again, you write an algorithm. All the math should make sense, and if it makes sense today, it'll make sense in 20 years. So, although I did what I hate to do over here in this, it happens. And so you just got to deal with it and keep on moving. The quickest way to do it is just what I just did. I drew an extra sketch with all the numbers. I knew they were correct, and I just built off of that. So I want you to add this to your cut list, okay? It should be under the cut list. That's what I have for you for now.